Check, check. I need to raise this a tiny bit. Good morning. As Deanne said, so glad to see everyone here on Memorial Day weekend. We know a lot of people are out traveling and taking advantage of the 3-day weekend. I'm curious, just in the group we have here today, how many of you all have loved ones that were military that you or your family lost, as a result of being in the military? Yeah. So our expressed condolences, my expressed condolences to you in that situation. I have had several people in the military, but none in the recent past that ever gave the ultimate sacrifice, which is what Memorial Day is about. You know, when I was thinking about this, and I'll be weaving a little bit of Memorial Day into my message, actually, thinking about this, you know, how many people, what percent of Americans actually know what Memorial Day is, other than a 3-day weekend? You know, I think, I would bet 70% probably don't actually pause to think about what this is and how is it different from Labor Day or some of these other days and those kind of things. But it really is, it's a significant day for us in our country. And so just want to pause and reflect on that and the sacrifice made there. So we are in a sermon series. As almost everybody here knows, we're talking about living the mission. We're looking at unpacking the mission statement that we live by, our reason for why we exist as this expression of Christ's body in the world. And the title of the series is, well, they just took it away from me, but I have it memorized. It's okay. Living the Mission. And today we're looking at part 2 of Living the Mission, where we're exploring, beginning the exploration of what it means to reflect God's love to the world, what it means to reflect His love to the world. But one of the things I just want to remind us of, and will every single time throughout this series, because it's so critical to the foundation of our why, is remembering that you and I were born to partner with God. Like, this is just foundational. And I know from having a few conversations with people just over the last few weeks as we've started this series that some of you guys have come to me and said, you know, this is a new framework for me. I've been in the church for a long, long time, but I never thought of myself as a partner with God. And I think the Lord is even doing some things to reshape your own relationship with Him, maybe even to heal some things as we think about the reality that we are partners with God. By the way, as we are, not as we think we should be, which is really, really good news. So, last week, if you were here or if you watched later online, you may remember I had some fun. I had some fun. I don't know if you had any fun. I had some fun in the message, wearing out the idea of video gaming as being sort of a metaphor or an analogy of our quest with God in this partnership that we're in with Him. And I hope you remember the idea of leveling up. Do you remember this from last Sunday? Leveling up, how God equips us and empowers us to partner with Him. In fact, I made the point that the partnership is an empowered partnership. You also may remember that I offered a cheat code. Does anybody remember this? I know you all have thoroughly forgotten my sermons by Tuesday. I understand that. I live with that expectation. I get it. But just for fun, does anybody remember? Don't put it up there. Oh my gosh, that is cheating. Never mind. You blew it for me. Okay, I even wrote in here, wait to put on the screen, but I didn't communicate. I did not communicate verbally, so she didn't know what I wanted there. Okay. Well, you know, the cheat code. Remember the cheat code? Pray for more love, and you will receive more power. And I challenge us to use that cheat code over the course of our partnership with God and just to continually see what happens. Pray for more love, and you'll receive more power. Over the next couple of weeks, we want to explore what that love really is. What does a deeper understanding of the love of God and reflecting God's love actually look like? That's the segue into this. And so last week, more on the lighthearted side, I would say. This week, I'm going to be a little bit more serious. In fact, I might even say some things that make us a tiny bit uncomfortable. But I'm just giving you a heads up right now. This will be a little bit more serious this morning, and here's why. Because I believe that truly grasping the love of God and learning to reflect that love to the world is serious business. It is. It was so serious to God that he literally took on human flesh and went to a cross for us. So I just want to be careful, because I know sometimes when we talk about love that we have sort of these different ideas and images of love, and we all know as seasoned Christian folk that the kind of love that we're talking about is agape love. It is the self-sacrificing kind of love, and that's serious business kind of love. So I want to invite you to do something with me, to go on a little uncomfortable imaginary journey with me this morning. I want you to imagine for a moment that Germany and Japan had won World War II. Just imagine that for a moment. And as part of their victory, they divided up the United States into two separate countries, East and West. And that they ruled over the United States, both of them, with this sort of punishing and oppressive way of being overlords within the country. Now, I know some of you guys have Amazon Prime, and I know that some of you are saying, you just described the Man in the High Castle TV series that ran for, yes, that is true. There is a book from the 1960s called The Man in the High Castle. A TV series was made out of that not too many years ago. This is the foundation for that story. But I want you to think about this for a second. Depending on how old you are right now, either your grandparents or your parents were the first American citizens to live under the oppressive rule of the victorious Axis powers here in the United States. Martial law is enforced, and it's a way of living. It's how the people. Personal freedoms are stripped down to whatever Germany and Japan decided to allow. The economy under the rule of Nazism and the Emperor of Japan is a serious struggle. It's every man for himself. The shelves are oftentimes bare. Taxation is through the ceiling. English continues to be allowed to be spoken, but only as a second language. German and Japanese would have been required as primary languages for commerce and all public communication. Imagine that's what you were born into. The freedom that you know today, the liberty that you know today, the affluence that you know today, the opportunity that you know today, the independence that you know today, you have no concept of. That's what you were born into. No celebrating Memorial Day. It doesn't exist in this dystopian world. And I want to tell you this morning that that's what life was like in Israel for the Jews when Jesus showed up on the scene. And maybe that helps us to grasp a little bit more the words of Jesus, every word and action of Jesus. Because sometimes I have a feeling we go to the scriptures and we just sort of pick verses out of there as these sort of good moralisms on how to be better people or whatever, and how to get to heaven when we die. And we don't understand that there is a very real historical concept and experience and context that these people are experiencing. In Jesus' day, the Jews lived under the rule and the oppression of the Roman Empire. I think most of us are aware of our history. They ruled the entire known world, actually, at that point in time. They had started ruling the entire known world around 63 BC. So long before Jesus even shows up on the scene, and long before anyone who is born that ever hears Jesus' audible voice, the Romans are ruling Israel and the rest of the known world. And by the way, before that, it was the Greeks. Maybe you know this. And before that, it was the Persians. And before that, it was the Babylonians. And before that, it was the Assyrians. Do you know this? The Jews are very, very familiar with living as oppressed people in their own land, as slaves, in a sense, in their own land. They lived as conquered enemies, required to live under the oppressive authority of the Roman Empire, literally in their own country. This is the scene when Jesus of Nazareth shows up in the world. Greek is the required language of trade, administration, and cross-cultural communication. Everyone has to speak Greek. Aramaic and Hebrew, which are the natural heart languages of the Jewish people, they're allowed to be spoken, but they're secondary. They're not primary. Greek is the primary language. If you and I were living in that dystopian example that I gave you, we would be speaking German as the primary language. Oh, sure, we might speak a little English here and there, but that would not be what you and I would know as our primary language. Jesus and the Jews of his day lived under very real oppression and limited freedom. And it's in that setting that Jesus utters these words to thousands of ordinary Jews who would listen to him. Listen to what he says to them. You are the light of the world. You are the light of the world. Can you imagine hearing those words under those conditions? Like, I can imagine being in the crowd there, and I'm one of the Jews, and I'm looking around at everybody else, the hundreds or maybe thousands that are there in this moment, and I'm just going, really? What has this guy lost his mind? What are you talking about? We're the scum of the earth. It's disorienting. And Jesus says to them, you are the light of the world in the midst of all of this. I imagine they're just thinking, no, we're not. Nope, we're anything but. But Jesus doesn't say this to them because they're so good. They're such nice people, generous, loving people, because they're different than everybody else out there. That's not why he says it to them. And yet I think sometimes when we read this text, along with the one right before it, maybe you remember the one right before it where he says, you are the salt of the earth. Remember this? But if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it become salty again? And it's right after that he says, you are the light of the world. No one, you are a city set on a hill. No one hides their light under a bushel or under a basket. You are the light of the world. I think a lot of times in our common understanding, because we don't understand the context in which Jesus is speaking to these people, and we don't really know the biblical story all that deeply sometimes, we have a tendency to think that what he's saying is, you guys need to remember that you're really, really good people. You're the best kind of people on the earth. Like, I don't know about how many of you guys have relatives maybe, or people that you've known in the past where when you talked about them with other people, you would say, oh, the salt of the earth people. They're the salt of good farming folk, raised their family well. Good, you know what I'm talking about? I mean, this is the parlance. This is the vernacular. This is how we tend to think of this. We grab Jesus' words and we change them to fit our common misunderstanding. And salt of the earth people. Absolutely. Best kind of people out there. Light of the world people. Aunt June, anywhere she went, just lit up the room, lit up the place. Nobody she didn't love. Nobody didn't love her. Light of the world kind of people. Salt of the earth kind of people. I think we have a tendency to read that and go, oh, and Jesus is saying, okay, you're the really good people in this moment in history, right? And that's not what he's saying. We have a tendency to trivialize many of the things that Jesus says because we just don't understand the context. I don't know if you know this or not, but salt is actually covenantal language in the history of Israel. Do you know this? If you read through Israel's story, there's a connection between the language of salt. In fact, Yahweh, God will literally tell Israel, and I could take you through all kinds of, for the sake of time, I don't want to go there unless you want to. I could take you to all these places where you begin to realize that God uses salt as a means of letting them know that this is the sign of the covenant. It means that this is a permanent covenant. So that when Jesus says to them, you are the salt of the earth, he is intending to trigger something in their minds from elementary school and middle school when they learned about the covenants. And they instantly they go, oh, we know what that means. We're covenant people. We're covenant people. Not we're good people, we're covenant people. We are in a unique covenant relationship with God. That's what Jesus means for them to pick up and understand. You're the salt of the earth. It's covenant language. And light was another metaphor, and you read a lot of this in the prophets and Isaiah, where God literally says to Israel, you shall be a light unto the nations for me. You are meant to make my name and my glory known in the context of the world, and you uniquely have this responsibility in this role because of the covenant that I have made with you, not because of your faithfulness and goodness, but because of mine and my purposes for the world. You are the light of the world. Instantly, those Jewish people would have recognized, oh, this is covenantal language. This is our story with God. This is not about, you know, how nice we are down at the grocery store or the wherever, you know, the dry cleaners. I think sometimes when we read this, we imagine Jesus is saying, you're the salt of the earth, you're the light of the world. Now, don't forget to go do good things and be nice people. And we'll read this and go, yeah, we really need to be more salt of the earth kind of people. A lot of us American Christian folk travel with that kind of theology around this language. It's actually what I call Steve Miller Band theology. The older people just laughed because they know. How many of you all are familiar with the Steve Miller Band? One of the greatest rock bands of the 1970s. Steve Miller Band. They had, what was their most famous song? Anybody know? Fly Like an Eagle. Time keeps on ticking, ticking, ticking into the future. You know that song? I want to fly like an eagle to the sea, fly like an eagle, let my spirit carry me. You know that song? And then here's the theology in the song. Actually, they even mention at the end of that, you know, what do they say? Oh, Lord, through the revolution. You know that? I mean, they're bringing up Jesus in this song. I'm like, really? I didn't see that back when I was a pagan. That's interesting. But here's the Steve Miller Band theology of what salt of the earth, light of the world. Feed the babies who don't have enough to eat. Shoe the children with no shoes on the feet. House the people living in the street. Oh, there's a solution. We are the light of the world. Don't you see? Light of the world, because Jesus said that once to me. We are the light. Oh, I made that last part up. Okay. But right, I mean, this is kind of our posture towards that text. Like, oh, yeah, we're the light. Go do good things. Now, I'm not saying don't do those things, right? Please don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm saying that's not what Jesus is saying. That's how we oftentimes interpret it. See, here's the thing. Their light does not come from their own goodness or good deeds. It comes from the fact that they alone are in a covenant relationship with God. I'm sorry, I'm taking you guys into a master's course this morning on biblical theology. I hope you can stay awake for it. But it's a covenant relationship with the one true Creator. Israel was called to be a light to the world, and Jesus is reminding them of their unique identity with Him as His covenant partner in the world. And that light was meant to look like something very different in the world, very particular, very unique, very set apart, which, by the way, all those adjectives I just used is the definition of holy. That's what holy is. Holy is different, set apart, unique. It's not religious. It's not fundamentalist. It's not legalistic. It's not, I think sometimes our understanding of holy is a little whacked as well. That's when he says, be holy as I am holy. It's because he says, you're in a relationship with me. You know how good and merciful and loving and powerful I am. And oh, by the way, these people have his presence literally living with them, something we have a tendency to forget. And he's saying, I want you to be these kind of people so that you shine my goodness, my truth, my beauty, and my love. These people carry something inside of them in the midst of their oppression. They carry something inside of them by virtue of this partnership relationship that no other people on the planet do. And Jesus knows this. And so he says to them, you are the light of the world because you alone are my holy partners. Not you might be, not try to be, but you are. You are. The light is theirs by nature of the relationship. In fact, we'll read these words. I find this interesting as I start thinking about and marinating in my strange theology brain about this, the language of light and the role of light and the metaphor of light and how we find that all throughout the Bible and especially in the New Testament. In John's Gospel, chapter 8, Jesus is speaking probably to a lot of the same Jews that heard him say these other words and some other new ones too. And he says, it says again, Jesus spoke to them saying, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. Think about this. Jesus says, I am the light of the world. In this, okay, you got to get your heavy lifting thinking brains. In this, Jesus is literally reconstituting within himself the role that Israel was meant to play in himself as the perfect and ultimate Israelite, radiating and reflecting the goodness and beauty and glory of God into the world. When Jesus says, I am the light of the world, he's really saying two things at once. Not only is he saying something about his divinity, he is the light that you can read about elsewhere that's divine, but he is also saying something about his humanity. He is the light embodied in human form through Israel's story to begin telling the full story of God into the world as a Jew and God come in the flesh. I know, it's like, this is really heavy, but this is what's going on here. I am the light of the world, and whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. And so I read this and I go, okay, Jesus, you said, well, to them, you are the light of the world. And now you're saying, I am the light of the world. So which is it? And I know that if I was asking Jesus this today, he would say, yes. Which is it? Yes. Right? He would look me in the face and he would say, Geoff, you are in me, and I am in you. We are one now in the same way that the Father and the Spirit and I are one. You are the light of the world, not because of your goodness, because of this new covenant relationship with me. In fact, Jesus, as we know in the story, is going to go on and establish the new covenant. This is what we're here to worship and to reflect on every Sunday morning with these Jewish people. And he's going to call them into this new covenant for the express purpose, okay, here I go, of leveling them up, right? That's what it is, leveling them up for this partnership through the gift of the Holy Spirit. Only this time, he's not going to limit it to Israel. He's opening it up to everyone. Hello, everyone. Means if you follow Jesus, you also are the light of the world and the salt of the earth. It's covenant language. Jesus said, whoever follows me will have the light of life. You and I are meant to live and reflect all that Jesus means by that statement, which begs the question, what does Jesus mean? What does he mean by that? What is it exactly that we are reflecting as this light of the world? And I want to just visit that briefly as I attempt to wrap this up quickly. Because we don't really have to dive very deeply into the New Testament to see that there is a direct connection between the light of God, the life of God, and the love of God. In fact, the truth is you can't separate them. They're inseparable. In the Apostle John's first letter, 1 John, not to be confused with his gospel, the Gospel of John, in 1 John chapter 1, verse 1, listen to how John opens up his letter. It sounds a lot like his gospel. That thing which we have heard, which we have seen with our eyes, which we have looked upon and touched with our hands, concerning the word of life. The life was made manifest. Now, I'm going to invite you to pay attention to that made manifest theme. The life was made manifest. By the way, who or what in the world is John talking about here? Because it's very cryptic right now. Who's he talking about? Jesus. I mean, we know this. I'm just, he's talking about Jesus, right? And we have seen it. Wait a minute, is it it or him? What's happening in the incarnation is so massive that I believe he can use this language because you literally have the fullness of the Godhead, the Trinity that is a mystery now coming to earth. The one who created life, its very self, is coming in Jesus. The life was made manifest. We've seen it. We've seen that life, and we testified to it and proclaimed to you the eternal life. That's the kind of life that God has and is, which was with the Father and was made manifest to us. Reminds me a lot of what he writes in the beginning of his gospel. You remember? In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and the Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. He finishes by saying, that which we have seen and heard we proclaim to you also, so that you too may have fellowship with us. And indeed our fellowship, our partnership, is with the Father and with his Son Jesus. God is life. That's what he's saying here. He doesn't just have it, he is life. And he is the kind of life that we were always meant to know, but weren't knowing because of sin, and he has come to correct that by coming himself in Jesus. The very next verse after this, 1 John 1:5, goes on to say this: this is the message that we have heard from him who is life, and proclaim to you that God is what? Light. Wait a minute, is he life or is he light? Yes. Thank you, somebody, right. And in him there is no darkness at all. If we say we have fellowship with him while we walk in darkness, we lie and we do not practice the truth. But if we walk in the light as he is in the light, we have fellowship. There's that fellowship thing, that relational thing again, with one another, and the blood of Jesus, his Son, cleanses us from all sin. To walk in the light is to walk in the truth about the God who came in Jesus. It does not mean that we are walking in sinless perfection. It means we're walking in the awareness of the gospel that we have heard, and we're saying yes to it, and we are relying on it, and we are saying we are now part of this new covenant thing that God is doing in the world through Jesus. It is literally God. To know God. And I think it's important for us American folk, because of the way we tend to think, to understand that to know God is to both understand Him and experience Him. It's not enough to just understand Him and not experience Him any more than it is to experience Him and not understand Him. Knowing involves both because it is grounded in fellowship and relationship. Lastly, 3 chapters in, John will say, because these things are true, because God is life and the life has been manifested, and God is light and the light has been manifested, he says, beloved, let us love one another. For love is from God, and whoever loves has been born of God and knows God. Anyone who does not love does not know God, because God is love. But now, wait a minute. Is He love or is He light? Or is He life? Yes. Thank you. In this, the love of God was made manifest among us, that God sent His only Son into the world so that we might live, you see the connections here, through Him. In this is love, not that we loved God, but that He loved us and sent His Son to be the propitiation for our sins. Beloved, if God so loved us, we also ought to love one another. No one has ever seen God. If we love one another, God abides in us, and His love is perfected in us. Do you see the connection? You can't separate what it is we're meant to know and be and do as people who have said yes to the new covenant. Now, there are literally dozens of other verses that I could bring to light here for you about what it means to be the light of the world and reflect God's love. But I want to invite us to listen to Jesus' own words in John 13. He says, "A new command I give you, love one another." There you go. Do that. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know. Here's the missional moment in the statement. It's missional to love. It's missional to say yes to the life of God. It's missional to say yes to the light of God. It's missional to love. By this, everyone will know that you're my disciples if you love one another. Here's my point. At the center of God's life and light is God's love. At the center of it. And it's God's love, not our love. Thank goodness. It'd be a terrible story if it was dependent upon me and you. It's not the best love that we can muster up as good salt of the earth, light of the world kind of people. It's not that. It's God's love that we are meant to reflect to the world as a response to saying yes to Him. And it's how God's life and His light are now manifested into the world through us, through the love that we reflect as followers of Jesus. It's actually in a similar way to the way Israel was supposed to do it, only now we, along with Israel, because it's Jews and Gentiles, are leveled up. Can I say that? We're leveled up, thanks to the gift of the Spirit. So I want to leave us with a somewhat serious thought in closing, because I do believe that truly grasping the love of God and learning to reflect that love to the world is serious business. I want us to think about this. Tomorrow is Memorial Day. And it's a serious day. It is. It's a serious day. It's a day when we're meant to pause and remember and honor the lives of those who have given the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom, for the country that we live in today that is not conquered by Nazi Germany and the Imperial Japanese Army. Thank God, right? Yes, amen. We live in the freest nation the world has ever known. Do you know this? Like, think about what I described to you about Israel when Jesus showed up. And then just any other nation you can think of in the history of the world. We live in the freest, I don't even know if that's a real word, but the freest nation the world has ever known. We have more personal freedom. We have more liberty, more opportunity, more convenience, more access to wealth, you name it, than any other people group in the history of planet Earth. How many of you guys are familiar with the U.S. Bill of Rights? The Bill of Rights. Can you name them all off the top of your head? Just kidding. Like, it's been a few years since I've been in, civics class or government school. But the Bill of Rights, we have freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of press, freedom to assemble, freedom to protest the government, the right to bear arms, the right to a fair trial by jury, and on and on and on and on. And I'm going to tell you this morning, friends, that the people of Jesus' day, listening to the words that Jesus shared, that I shared with you this morning, those people could not even begin to imagine the life that you and I know and experience right now in America. It would be literally inconceivable to them. If we told them that this was a possibility and a reality for people to know and experience, I'm convinced that they would have said, "Oh, you mean the kingdom of heaven has already arrived?" Seriously, because that was their understanding and expectation of what it would look like when the kingdom of heaven comes. Do you see how the massive difference there, how disorienting? They could not imagine the incredible freedom and opportunity that we enjoy. And with that said, I want us to just to look at and listen to the balance in context of what Jesus said to those people then. He said, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven." The good works are the product of their awareness that they live in a covenant relationship with God who is good. Do you follow? You and I are God's new covenant people. We are His partners, Jew and Gentile combined. And we are called by Christ to radiate and reflect God's love into the world in the midst, think about this, of our freedom. In the midst of our freedom, like we are free to radiate and reflect that love, to share the gospel, to live openly with our faith in the new covenant and in the coming of Jesus Christ. And even though, friends, it feels, and I know it feels like more and more we are becoming marginalized and marginalized. Nobody wants to hear our voice anymore. We get it. Being Christian isn't cool anymore. We are not the cool kids in the culture anymore. I understand it. In some ways, it feels like there is an assault, an attack on the good and beautiful gospel of the kingdom. I get that. But I promise you, whatever we're experiencing from an oppression standpoint pales in comparison pales in comparison. And it is from that space that Jesus says to you and me today, you are the light of the world. You are the light of the world. Reflect my love to the world. That's what it means to be a partner with God. Will you stand with me? Yes? Sure. Sure, absolutely.
It's 1968, and we're on a hill above Quezon, and I had just gotten there, and I didn't know anybody. Yes, sir. And they said one of the Marines is celebrating his birthday, so come on over and have some cake. And I asked him how old he was. He said 17. He'd enlisted, I guess, with his parents' permission before when he was 16. That night, we got overrun, and he was killed. And what I reflect on every Memorial Day is that young man who wanted to serve his country for whatever reason. But what really strikes the heart is his mom wrote to us, and she said, please tell me he got his birthday cake and was able to. The sacrifice that people made, it's really a thing to remember each and every Memorial Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. Thank you for that. Let's just pause for a minute.